Hi everyone, Dr. Ben here. So I've been asked to make a video about the low carb and the keto approach to addressing autoimmune disease and why I'm not a fan, why I don't do that approach, why I do a high carb, fruit-based approach. And so I'm going to start off this video by saying that I'm really not a fan of putting others down or putting other approaches down. I more like to do what I do, get results for myself, get results for my clients, get results for people who follow me, and let that speak for itself and not go around attacking others. But a lot of people have asked for this information, and so I just wanted to put that out there as my perspective. Take what you will with it, apply it in your own life. If you're getting results and you're happy with them, doing a keto and low carb approach, good for you, awesome. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise, but a lot of people come to me who've tried that and they've either had a really hard time or they've gotten some limited results, but they just feel like there's more, like there's something better, or it's just not quite getting them where they need to go, and they're open to hearing another perspective. So this video's especially for those people. And the way I'm going to structure this video is basically in three parts. Number one, I'm going to talk about what I think is actually good about the low carb and keto approaches and what the things that they get right. And then I'm going to talk about the things that I don't like, the things that I disagree with, the things that I think they get wrong. And then I'm going to talk about what I think are the advantages of what I do, a high carb fruit-based approach, and why I think it's actually better. So we'll get into all of that, but I want to start off by saying, like, there's a lot of things that I think it does really well. And I think the most important thing is that they shun processed foods. So they tell you, not to eat refined sugar, not to eat refined flour, not to eat anything that's processed, that's made in a lab, in a factory. They want you to eat whole foods that come from the earth in some form or another, pretty much. So I agree with them on that. I think that's a fundamental key tenet here above anything else, that you want to stick to stuff that's not artificially created, not been messed with by humans, not been refined, because when you refine foods, you strip them of their nutrients. So refined sugar, terrible idea. Refined flour, terrible idea. Refined dairy, terrible idea. In fact, I think really any dairy is not good for you. And I know that a lot of low carb people don't do dairy either, but I think that's one major thing they get right. A lot of these processed foods are also made from GMO ingredients, which have a lot of a pesticide called Roundup, which contributes to leaky gut, which contributes to autoimmunity. So I think it's very important to avoid those foods. So I agree with them on that, that these processed man-made foods that have developed in the last 60, 70 years are really harmful to our health. And of course, they definitely are big proponents of vegetables, except for the carnivore crowd, but I'm definitely a fan of vegetables too. So yes, eating tons and tons of vegetables is definitely a thing. I think we can all agree that that's healthy. There are a few people out there, and I guess in the carnivore camp, who think that they're bad, but for the most part, I think 99% of us can agree that vegetables are health promoting, and that the more of them we eat, the more health we experience. Of course, they're also very low in calories, so we can't subsist entirely on vegetables. It doesn't make sense. And so what the low carb and keto camps tend to do is get most of their calories from animal products in the form of meat, sometimes dairy, but for the most part, meat. And of course, they want to use high quality meat ingredients. I'm not saying they eat, fried chicken nuggets. They try to get quality, but I think that we'll go into why I think this is a bad idea. Of course, it's not GMO. Some of these animals, if they're not organic, may have been fed GMO, and so they still have the pesticide residues in their bodies, which of course is going to affect you. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're doing this protocol and you're eating all organic animal products. That might seem like a good idea, but there are some problems. And number one is that meat, no matter how you slice it, is pro-inflammatory. Whether it's fatty meats or lean meats or whatever, it's going to be pro-inflammatory. Now, they're going to say that grass-fed is less inflammatory than grain-fed, but of course, if something's less unhealthy, it doesn't make it healthy, okay? And so they're trying to offset this by eating lots of vegetables, but really with autoimmune disease, you want to have no inflammation, not just have some inflammation. And so that's really a problem. Also, there's no fiber in animal products. That's a nutrient you need, especially if you want to regenerate your gut flora. They thrive on fiber. Okay, you got to feed them fiber. There's no carbohydrate And so they might think like a good thing because, okay, we're avoiding carbs, which they equate with refined foods like candy, soda, chips, donuts, pastries, cakes, stuff like that. But those foods I certainly don't contest. They're bad for you. I don't want you eating them. But then they're basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying that whole plant foods that are high in carbohydrates like fruit are bad for you too. And that's where they have a problem with that assertion. And I think that's where they kind of miss the boat, is that they assume that, well, because high fructose corn syrup is bad for you, that means that anything with fructose, any fruit, is bad for you. And that's a leap. That's a throwing out of the baby with the bathwater that I think is a mistake. Okay, so these animal foods, they're lacking certain essential nutrients like fiber, like vitamin C, like carbohydrate, and that's a problem. Okay, and so yes, it's certainly better than eating cookies or pastries or pizza or anything like that. But I think that the superior choice from animal products, instead, still eat the vegetables, but is fruit. Okay. And so I want to go into why I think fruit is superior. Not only superior, I think it's the optimal food for human beings and the best thing for reversing disease. So number one is that fruit has a nutrient profile that best meets our nutrient needs. So it has vitamin C, it has fiber, it has carbohydrate, which animal products don't have. Okay, and it has vitamins and minerals in the proportions that best meet our nutrient needs. Okay, and so fruit leaves behind almost no metabolic residue, just like vegetables. So it burns very cleanly. It gives you energy, and it's anti-inflammatory as opposed to meat, which is pro-inflammatory. So remember, autoimmune disease, we're trying to bring that inflammation down as much as we can. Fruit is great for that, okay? Fruit is also, the carbohydrates in it are great for energy, because people are doing these low carb diets, they're not getting any carbs, and they're tired all the time, and they're groggy all the time, and guess what? They begin relying on stimulants like coffee to make it through the day, coffee to do your workout. Now all these low carb and keto gurus are selling different coffees that you got to consume because you have no energy, because you're not eating any carbohydrates, which you really need, and fruit is the best supplier of that. And so if we look from a science perspective at the animals that are closest to us genetically, that are like 99.5, 99.9% the same as us, it's bonobos and chimpanzees. And what do they eat? They eat a diet of primarily fruit and leafy greens and a teeny bit of bugs, okay? Don't think you should eat bugs. I don't think it'll kill you to eat them, but it's not something that I'm a proponent of. But they do eat primarily fruit and a little bit of leafy greens, and that is the formula also for humans to experience optimal health. There are essentially no downsides to fruit. Studies on all-cause mortality that look at all the causes of death from cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all this stuff, find that the biggest contributor to all-cause mortality is not eating enough fruit. It is one of the healthiest foods you can eat, and most people think it's like a snack. In my program, when I work with my clients, and what I've been doing for the past 10 years, is I eat it as a meal. I eat it as 2.5 meals a day, okay? So fruit is the optimal food for humans, and I think it's superior to meat. I hope I've presented that well enough here. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you want me to go more in depth on any of this stuff, let me know. But I hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you guys next time.